Dear students, good evening. Welcome to Law Excellence. Let us have the editorial analysis for today, that is 20th September 2022. I'll also discuss the previous year's questions and also this year's question paper to connect with our plus one advantage and also with the editorial analysis and how to make the best use of the editorial analysis so that you can equip yourself what to take from this and how to make best use of this. The first article, it is the people of Pakistan who are suffering. If you see, in diplomacy in the long run, what matters is people-to-people relations. The state and government, these are the instruments to connect the people. Today, between India and Pakistan, there might be many differences, but people-to-people connect can be improved through humanitarian aid. So, Finance Minister of Pakistan, he has announced that the road traffic can be opened for India. So, it is the time India can stand shoulder to shoulder with the people of Pakistan. It will add to a lot of its goodwill, and then it will add for people-to-people relations between these two countries. And second, the hijab case and the essential practices doctrine. You know Shirur Mutt judgment. In the Shirur Mutt case, what the Supreme Court of India held is this: the religious practice has to be connected with religious faith or religious philosophy. So, if a religious practice is connected with the religious faith, we call it as essential religious practice. If not, it will not be protected by the Constitution. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar also has supported, our court took the words of the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar for the support of this judgment. What Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said is, in India, womb to tomb, everything is covered by the religion. In this context, there will be no space for law. So, the faith which is or practice which is essential to faith, these have to be considered while giving the freedom of religion. Based on that, the essential religious doctrine has come into existence. Today, we have a lot of criticism onto this. Here, Chandrachud, he has given a judgment. Let us understand this principle, the principle of anti-exclusion. What he said is, any religious practice that is excluding certain sections or groups of people participating or involving in the process, then it can be considered as unconstitutional, or no constitutional protection can be given for such a practice. This is called anti-exclusion principle. Then what is the criticism of this? The first is, the judges are trained in common law but not in theology. So judges are getting in this ecclesiastical matters is not expected. And also, judicial involvement in religious matters has delayed the progression of the religion itself. So the religious groups, if they are being given to determine the religious matters, they could have got the autonomy and religion could have been a bit progressive. And added to that, many of these matters are the legislative domain, and legislature has to take the responsibility to enact the matters like this. This is how the article is talking about. And in this, what is the plus one advantage? So remember this anti-exclusion principle given by Justice Chandrachud. So any matter which is excluding certain groups or individuals, then these need not be protected by the Constitution under freedom of religion. So remember this particular anti-exclusion principle as a plus one advantage. And remember Shirur Mutt judgment. From Lodha to Ramana, the Chief Justices of the Modi era. So in India, if you observe carefully, the working of the Supreme Court is more like rebalancing its power vis-a-vis the executive. Whenever we have a strong executive at the center, the Supreme Court was unable to stand to its power. Now, either in the Modi era or during the Indira Gandhi era, which we saw that. In this case, let us see the evolution of the Supreme Court in India. 1950 to 71, if we observe, the Supreme Court and the executive has the mutual respect for each other. Whatever the Chief Justice of India recommended, these are being honored in the appointments by the executive. Now, 1971 to 1993, the court packing collegium system has come, the court packing and committed judiciary has come into existence, where the judiciary is expected to toe to the lines of the executive. In this context, the judiciary or Supreme Court is filled with the people who belong or who morally align with the political ideas. That is what we discussed as court packing. And judiciary and towing to the line of the executive and committed to the policies of the government. That is what we called as committed judiciary. So this has been violative of the independent judiciary. So anyone who did not toe to the line of the government, these are made to suffer in their career. So you know Hansraj Khanna, the dissenting judge in the ADM Jabalpur case, he was not made the Chief Justice of India, though he was the senior most judge in line for it. So Hansraj Khanna is a typical example you can quote, and it is essential for +1 advantage. After 1993, we got the era of collegium, where judicial primacy exists in the appointment of the judges today. So this is the brief history of judicial or Supreme Court in India. In this, what are the issues we are seeing today? The first is judicial evasion. During Modi era, many of the steps which are being taken, which are said to be violative of the liberties of the individual or civil liberties. So one is 370, Article 370 we are done away with. After that, internet shutdowns were there. After that, we also have this National Security Act, which has been for years together they are being following that. So in this case, to protect the civil liberties, Supreme Court should have been active. And also with this politically sensitive matters like electoral bonds, the Supreme Court has not yet taken up the matter for hearing till date. So this is what has been described as judicial evasion. And it is clearly seen in the second term of the Prime Minister Modi. And second, executive court. A court which is aligned morally and legally with the executive of the day, that is called executive court. So many of the policies, many of the laws, these are being upheld by the Supreme Court in line with the executive. And then administrative court. Normally I use the administrative court when the court is involved with administrative matters. So let us see, when Deepak Mishra was the Chief Justice of India, he made two important judgments. One is standing up to the national anthem, the cinegoers has to stand up. And second thing, no liquor sale on highways. So these are not practically possible. The judiciary neither has capabilities to deal with those matters, but still it is getting involved in the administrative matters. This is called administrative court. And sealed cover jurisprudence. If you observe during Ranjan Gogoi era, when Ranjan Gogoi was the Chief Justice of India, on all important matters, either it is Ayodhya matter, he has taken up the matters in sealed cover, in a non-transparent manner. And then increased conflict of interest, violation of the principles of natural justice. Now, Arunachal Pradesh Chief Minister, former Chief Minister, if I am not wrong, Kaliko Pul, his name is, he has accused the judges of harassing him. And Justice Kehar was the Chief Justice then. He also named Mr. Kehar in his statement. And second, Ranjan Gogoi, when he was the Chief Justice of India, the allegations of sexual harassment has come against him. In this case, Justice Kehar in the first case and Justice Ranjan Gogoi have decided the matters. Obviously, they have become the judges of their own case. It is violation of the principle of natural justice. And then arbitrary transfers. When Justice Thakur was the Chief Justice of India, so massive transfers of the judges of High Court have happened. So High Court judges cannot be treated as like civil servants. So any kind of arbitrary transfers can affect their morale. So that's why with regard to the transfers, we shall have a clear documented policy. So that's why arbitrary transfers can be avoided. Post-retirement postings. Normally, to disconnect the executive and to maintain the independence of judiciary, we suggest cooling off period after the retirement. In this case, Justice Sadasivan, he was appointed as Kerala governor after his retirement. And Mr. Ranjan Gogoi was made MP Rajya Sabha. This all clearly shows that the allurement of post-retirement postings can raise suspicion on the judiciary itself. And then preferential benches, disregard to the roster. So, and during Deepak Mishra, the judge, 4 judges raised the voice against the Chief Justice of India. He is not following the norms and the roster. So, that's why the 4 senior most judges who are part of the collegium have raised voice against Justice Deepak Mishra. So, you can have examples for every point over here, which is your +1 advantage. Added to that, certain positive steps which are being taken. During Justice Thakur era, National Judicial Data Grid is being built. And also during Justice Ramana era, the gender diversity has increased in the Supreme Court. And also many of the vacancies in Supreme Court and High Courts got filled during Justice Ramana era. So these are the important points to be noted. Few days back, one more article has come up which talks that India has to build a legal culture. So what is this legal culture? Certain norms of practice which has to be followed by the judges and then the courts in India, that has to be called as legal culture. So this legal culture has to be combinedly built with the effort of bench, bar and everyone. So in India, lack of this legal culture can push the judiciary away from its independence and can lead to an executive court that is the greatest fear. So a legal culture that is surrounds around accountability, that also surrounds around independence need to be built in India. So remember this point, legal culture as a point to carry forward or +1 advantage. And second, I will be accountable to myself. It may not work in the long run. So there has to be a serious thinking on the judicial accountability in India. And there is judicial independence. We see it from two dimensions. One is the independence from the executive. And second dimension is an individual judge also has to be independent from his biases. He has to more be based on law rather than based on his biases. So judicial independence, don't think that it is just in the case of the executive. It also has to be freedom from one's own prejudices and biases and his allegiance to the constitution. Why I am talking about this is Justice Sen of Meghalaya High Court recently stated that the India could have been a Hindu nation. So this is clearly violative of the constitutional values and he is bound by his prejudices over there. These kind of things have to be avoided. Next, knowing the killer. It is regarding death penalty. Normally after conviction happens, they decide the years of sentence or what is the sentence that has to be given. So here the various factors are being considered. That is mitigation characteristics, these are called as, like what is the socio-economic profile of the individual, educational levels, brought up, etc. That helps the judge to understand the circumstances of crime. In India, what happens is, immediately after conviction, sentence is automatically decided in most of the cases. You know that rarest of the rare doctrine. So in India, any kind of capital punishment has to be based on rarest of the rare doctrine. So this rarest of the rare, it means that the crime has to be gruesome. And second, we also need to include that the rarest of the rare doctrine shall take into consideration the mitigating circumstances. So these are the points we need to remember. This is it for today's discussion. I wish you all the best. And today or tomorrow, I'll try to complete that question paper discussion to you, the polity and governance areas. Wish you all the best. Thank you very much.